The third and final debate among South Korea's presidential contenders took place Tuesday evening with the agenda on domestic politics and foreign policies. With more on Press Perspective today. Hello, welcome to Wednesday's edition of Press Perspective. It's May 28th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sunhee. Korea, it's counting down less than a week to the snap election on June 3rd. While early voting begins tomorrow, that is Thursday, and ends on Friday at polling places nationwide from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. Now, that being said, today we touch upon the thoughts of the presidential contenders on national politics and foreign policies as shared during their debate last night. For this, I have Celio Fioretti with French daily Croix here in the studio. Celio, welcome back.
It's been a while. Glad to be here.
Right. I also have Yang Chien-Hao, a freelance journalist from Taiwan based here in Seoul. Chien-Hao, as always, it's great to have you here.
Hello, and thanks for having me today.
Right. Celio, we'll start with you. Let's begin with the foreign media response to the final presidential election debate among the contenders held last night.
Yeah, so South Korea is approaching, as you said, a crucial election on June 3rd after a whole start of the year of political crisis and instability following the Yoon Suk-yeol impeachment. The vote is widely seen as a chance to maybe restore peace and harmony in Korea. According to recent polls conducted between Lee Jae-myung, the opposition Democratic Party candidate, is currently in lead, though his margin has become much shorter, shrinked a lot with his opponent Kim Moon-soo, candidate for the Conservative People Power Party, which saw a strong upheaving of intention for voters, reaching 36% in the latest polls, likely boosted by his performance in recent debates. A third contender, Lee Jun-suk, also polling around 10%. He got also more attention to him after the debates. But beyond the political drama, domestic policies, what caught the attention of foreign media is the economic pledges, and especially regarding Trump and how Korea will try to navigate between China and the US and how to maybe negotiate with Trump to lift some tariffs. Korea is now already facing 25% tariff on automobile, steel, and aluminum, and others might be on their way. There has been some discussion by the acting president that we had before, but just being an acting president doesn't give so much leverage. Negotiating with Trump, Trump is really all about dealing person to person, sympathy and relationship. So I think once we get someone in the Blue House, we'll see more development on negotiation, and that's really what foreign media are focusing on right now.
Right. Chien-Hao, Tuesday's debate, it also centered on the political polarization here in the country, and the blame game, if you will, was on full display. Could you walk us through that dispute?
So we can already see that many times, like Kim Moon-soo and Lee Jun-suk, they are trying to criticize and even attack Lee Jae-myung, as it already happens in the previous first and the second time TV debate. And I think this time is way more harsher, because Kim Moon-soo attacked it on Lee Jae-myung's judicial crisis, and Lee Jae-myung, on the other hand, attacked Lee Jun-suk, on the other hand, attacked Lee Jae-myung over past incidents in which Lee Jae-myung reportedly spoke very harshly about his own brother and sister-in-law. And most of the time, Lee Jae-myung is very busy defending himself. And so occasionally, the Kwon Yong-guk, another progressive candidate, he even tried to throw critical questions to attack Kim Moon-soo and Lee Jun-suk, using this as a way to come to rescue Lee Jae-myung. And confronting the judicial crisis, Lee Jae-myung has mentioned that the cases against him are all fabricated suspicions deliberately imposed by the prosecution. And Kim Moon-soo continuously criticized that Lee Jae-myung for planning to impeach the judge and he planned to hold the hearings targeting the judges, claiming that it is the opposition forces led by Lee Jae-myung interfering with the judiciary system to make it stand on the side with Democratic Party. And however, Lee Jae-myung counters that he will be cleared all of his charges and that the Democratic Party has already withdrawn the actions against the judges. And the thing which triggers and attracts most attention on the debate last night, I want to mention it is Lee Jun-seok directly asked Kwon Young-gun, saying that if something like violating or like causing harm to a woman's body, would this constitute misogyny? I don't want to speak the whole complete sentences, but this is really, many people are feeling shocked when hearing Lee Jun-seok say that. This is from the famous conservative YouTube channel, the Harvard Lab, the Celio 연구소, which has screenshot some comments left by a guy on the internet forum containing numerous instances of sexual harassment several years ago. So the Harvard Lab is claiming that the one who left the comment is Lee Jae-myung's son. And so Lee Jae-myung's son had been accused of engaging in prostitution and online sexual harassment. Ultimately, the prostitution case was closed due to lack of evidence. But the online sexual statements related to online sexual harassment are still under investigation. And whether it's true or not, now that many female groups, especially feminism groups or civil organizations, they are claiming that Lee Jun-seok's remarks, his words on the live broadcast will contribute to the spread of sexual violence, and now they are calling for him to withdraw from the election.
Right, but he has apologized for his crude language shared on Tuesday evening with regard to referencing, that is, the alleged remarks by the son of Democratic Party candidate Lee Jae-myung, right?
But that's the big problem. I think even if he really apologized, I think many people were still not accepting, because remember, until last election in 2022, Lee is also a very man character candidate who is a character which is like always criticizing on feminism. That is also like in the poll you can see that most of the people, especially for those in their 20s, Korean male, they are supporting Lee Jun-seok, but only like 4 or 5% of the female in their 20s and 30s are supporting Lee Jun-seok. So that means that his controversial sentences, those words has really made that his like supporters very like separately, very clearly
Polarized
right.
further. Right. Celio, as you mentioned earlier, quite a number of foreign media outlets believe that the diplomatic priority for the next administration here in the country will be navigating the rivalry between the US and China, which you mentioned a bit earlier. What have you been hearing on the ground with regard to this?
Well, this presidential election couldn't come at a more critical time. Trump arrived in the White House early 2025, and the country has not had a strong leadership to really face his threat and the way he imagined the world under him. So now trade will be really the core of the negotiation, the core of the relationship with the US. The next president will face immense pressure to revive a flattering economy, while managing complex foreign relations with Beijing, but with Washington also, for key security interests, whether it's economic or military. And this is particularly urgent because Donald Trump, as I mentioned, already put some tariff on Korea, is planning to do more. Even though his plan is a bit vague for now, he's been delaying and pushing away the deadline, but still he's trying to hold some leverage to negotiate with other countries. The two main candidates, Lee Jae-myung, has more of a policy to not rush into discussing with Donald Trump. I think it goes into his policy of not being fully against China or fully with the US. He's trying to play this really slim rope between the two countries, between the two powers in the region, to find maybe the best way for Korea. I have to say it could be interesting, but it's a difficult and long way to go. On the other hand, Kim Moon-soo is mostly continuing on the Yoon Suk-yeol hard line against China to side with the US, have some talk with him right after the election, get something done, get a deal done to maybe lift some tariffs. That could be also beneficial for Korea. Trump is not going to give anything away, playing the waiting game to see what Korea wants to get. He wants to make a deal fast, to know what Korea will be, what role Korea will be playing in the US economy, whether it's exports or imports. But both candidates have placed the economy at the core of their campaign and really pushing on it. Some candidates are promoting their personal relation with Trump or their expertise with the US administration to negotiate. They're really playing on this, and I think the electors are sensible to this discourse, might help them to make their choice for the candidates on June 3rd.
Right, we'll see then. Chien-Hao, now as you mentioned, the final debate that was held last night, Tuesday evening, it contained quite a bit of ad hominem attacks among the contenders. But on the agenda for last night was diplomacy and defense. Yes. What can you tell us about the strategies shared by these contenders with regard to security and foreign policy?
So let me briefly introduce the four people's their diplomatic and national defense plan. That Lee Jae-myung, he mentioned that South Korean diplomacy is based on the alliance between South Korea itself and the United States. So it is necessary to maintain the relationship, but also it is still necessary to maintain the relationship with China and Russia meanwhile, and there is no need to make any relationship hostile. And South Korea's defense budget is already twice of the size of North Korea's GDP, while South Korea possesses strong military resources. Engaging in dialogue with North Korea and maintaining peace is essential. That was what Lee Jae-myung mentioned last night. So he said that he will also promote the establishment of diplomatic relations between the United States and North Korea. And talking about Kim Mun-soo, he claimed that North Korea is threatening South Korea now, so it will be necessary to strengthen the nuclear deterrence based on South Korea and U.S. alliance. Also increasing South Korea's defense capabilities and establish the balance of power based on military strength. And speaking of Lee Jun-seok, he proposed that to merge the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Ministry of Unification together and to establish a new position called Deputy Prime Minister for Security. And another creative part of Lee Jun-seok is he claimed that South Korea should establish ROK and United States joint military supply facility and provide South Korea-made ammunition to United States. And South Korea can produce more weapons, and also in order to address the United States demands for South Korea to share more of the defense fee, the defense cost, South Korea can increase weapons production for the United States to solve the problem. And finally, for Kwon Yong-gu, he emphasized the appointment of a civilian rather than a military force to serve a military figure to serve as the minister of the national defense. And he also insisted on disbandment of the defense counterintelligence command, and at the same time he proposed establishing a restrained defense management system to limit the overreaction of those in power to external threats or the arbitrary use of the force. Very similar to Lee Jae-myung, Kwon Yong-gu emphasized the peace and dialogues, believing that this is the only way to achieve economic development of South Korea.
Right. Staying with defense, but going beyond that debate last night, Celio, last week while you were not here in your absence, because you were busy covering issues here in the country, we covered quite a bit of talk about the possible reduction in the size of U.S. forces here in South Korea, following a report by the Wall Street Journal about a potential relocation of American soldiers to other parts of the Indo-Pacific. What have you been hearing with regard to this particular issue among pundits here?
As you mentioned, tensions are rising in South Korea following the report that Trump administration might be considering withdrawing 4,000 troops from the peninsula. The Wall Street Journal says the plan hasn't reached the Oval Office yet, but that might be the case anytime soon. This potential move revives long-standing concern in Seoul especially as the country heads into the election. During Trump's first term, he repeatedly pushed for allies like South Korea to pay more to maintain the cost of the US troops deployed, even suspending joint exercise after meeting Kim Jong-un. While Seoul and Washington both says there's no official talks about this yet, we can see that there's some tension in the alliance. We can really feel that in Seoul. However, as an opinion piece written by Chun In-boom, former commander of US ROK Army, gave an interesting point, I think, into the opportunity that a withdrawal of US troops might give to Korea. Because he explained that the US is anyway shifting its policy and strategy in the Indo-Pacific region, mostly focusing more on China. They feel like the North Korean threat is not so big anymore. They don't need to put so many people in Korea to assure deterrence. And he said it's true that it can make some people worried in Seoul, but Korea should use it maybe as more of a new way to threaten North Korea or to affect them with deterrence, because a US force away from Korea moving in a region maybe unpredictable will cause some trouble for North Korea, because they will not know where a response might come from the US, and United States Army could jump on North Korea from anywhere in the region. That could be actually more troublesome for North Korea, because right now they know where the US troops are. They are just right across the border. They are prepared to any kind of scenario of US troops moving to the north. So having someone outside might also help to make Korea has more leverage, because they might participate in joint exercise with other partners in the region. We have seen some exercise with Japan, but we might see some with the Philippines, with Taiwan maybe one day. So having more of a coordination in the region might help South Korea also to have more of an important role in the alliance and in the region.
Right, and this was an opinion piece by the former Korean military commander Chun In-boom, right? An interesting piece right there. Chien-Hao, back on the campaign trail, the results of the final public polls have been shared today. What are your takeaways with regard to the latest findings?
So till Sunday and this Monday, most of the polls in South Korea shows that the Lee's supporting rate fell several percent, from around 50% to 45%. Meanwhile, Kim Moon-soo's support has grown by around 3 to 4 percentage. So the gap between that means that the gap between Lee Jae-myung and Kim Moon-soo was indeed getting closer, and it is definitely very good news for the Conservative. But it is not a surprising result, because as we know that the Conservative, they started the race very lately comparing to the Democrats, and so the supporters they were gathering, and that also makes Lee Jae-myung's camp a bit nervous. But according to the last surveys came out yesterday and this morning, we can see that some of them show that the gap between Lee Jae-myung and Kim Moon-soo is getting bigger again. This can be seen on like Gallup, which has been regarded as the most trustable source conducting the survey every week, and mostly through artificial phone interview. 49% for Lee Jae-myung, and then Kim Moon-soo for 36%, and 9% for Lee Jun-seok. Indeed, there are no big difference for Kim Moon-soo and Lee Jun-seok, but we can see Lee Jae-myung, his supporting rate gaining 4% back. And Celio and me, we've met the director of Gallup yesterday, and he showed us, according to the poll by genders, by ages, and by regions, Lee Jae-myung has gained more than last time competing with Yoon Suk-yeol. And if there is no big accidents happening, then the result is indeed predictable and will be hardly to be changed. And another survey I want to show you guys is Realmeter, which is another company always conducting and releasing their weekly survey, but with automatic response survey, ARS. Realmeter's last survey shows that Lee Jae-myung gaining 49.2%, and Kim Moon-soo 36.8%, with Lee Jun-seok 10.3%. Very similar to Gallup, Lee Jae-myung gaining back 2.8%, with others nearly the same comparing to last week.
Right, I see. Celio, beyond those approval ratings, we have been told that the ratings for television viewership with regard to presidential debates have been falling in recent years. Reportedly, the second TV debate that was aired last Friday, it apparently drew the smallest audience with a rating below 20%, which for Korea apparently is the first time for such a low rating for a live presidential election debate. To what extent do you suppose do these television debates perhaps influence voter sentiment going forward?
In South Korea, presidential debates are diffused on prime time on TV, yet, as you mentioned, they now constantly have low rating. This lack of audience engagement has posed some challenge in the country, political and media landscape. First, I think, especially in this election, there's a growing public fatigue, and people are not so much interested. They know what is at stake, but the crisis has been going on for so long. People are tired and they just want to get to the vote and choose who will be the next president. Many viewers, not only young generation, but really everyone in Korea now, is not only watching news on TV. The day of the TV being in a living room with all the family looking at it is long gone now. People look at news on the phone, on internet, on YouTube, and they get their sources everywhere. Some are good, some are less good, but the TV debate feel it's a bit too old-fashioned with rehearsed sound bites, as we mentioned, candidates attacking each other. People don't really feel they get something concrete. They don't feel there's solutions proposed on TV during this debate, and that thing makes people not watch the TV debates anymore. And third, I think the deep polarization of South Korean politics now makes that people don't even want to hear what the other candidates are saying. If you have already made your choice, there is less chance that you will change your mind hearing the debates and maybe questioning your vote or your ideas. People just don't look at it because the choice is made and has been made for a long, long time now. So I think that's why the debates are attracting less and less viewers. But it shows that the democracy maybe in Korea is changing. The media will have to adapt to it, and the candidate will have to adapt to it in the coming elections to maybe attract more people and get their message done in a better way.
Right, and speaking about the candidates, Chien-Hao, PPP candidate Kim Soo is seeking a merger with Reform Party candidate Lee Jun-seok. Now, Lee Jun-seok has reaffirmed his resolve to remain in the race. That being said, what's the latest on that front with regard to a possible coalition between the two?
Indeed, from the beginning, Lee Jun-seok has already revealed that and insisted that he will not accept the integration. And he said that he will run the campaign till the end unless the People Power Party decide that the final candidate will be Lee Jun-seok himself instead of Kim Mun-soo. And last week, I've already explained that Lee Jun-seok, he was the former leader of the PPP, he was being kicked out because of the allegations of accepting sexual favors, though those cases were closed without suspicion because the statute of limitations had expired. Many regard him as a victim of the retaliation due to his differing views and contradictions with President Yoon Suk-yeol. And currently, Kim Mun-soo's stance on the martial law incidents remains too vague, too radical, and Lee Jun-seok wants to draw a clear distinction. So that's why Lee Jun-seok, till now, he has been refusing to integrate with Kim Mun-soo. And while many conservative supporters and many politicians, they are claiming supporting rates numbers of Kim Mun-soo and Lee Jun-seok combining together has shown that it will possibly defeat Lee Jae-myung, but according to the poll conducted by Gallup the last time, when polling a head-to-head matchup, whether it's Kim Mun-soo or Lee Jun-seok individually against Lee Jae-myung still maintains a steady lead. That means 1 + 1 not only does equal more than 2, but it may even be less than 2. And this indicates that the supporters of Kim Mun-soo and Lee Jun-seok are heterogeneous.
Right, well, we'll see the result of that particular election on early June 4th, probably, because the election takes place on June 3rd. Early voting begins tomorrow and ends on Friday. All right, I'm afraid that's all the time we have. As always, Chien-Hao, thank you very much for your thoughts.
Thank you.
And Celio, thank you very much for your insights. Right, that ends Wednesday's edition of Press Perspective. Thank you for watching.